Hi, my name is Mihaela Overby, and my theory was the theory of psychosocial development. Erik Erikson proposed this theory that individuals go through 8 distinct and predictable stages as they develop their sense of self and their relationship with others. There are 8 stages. We're going to focus on the first 3, which are trust versus mistrust, autonomy versus shame and doubt, and initiative versus guilt, because those cover the ages that we're covering, ages 0 birth through age 5. The other 5 stages are industry versus inferiority, identity versus role confusion, intimacy versus isolation, generativity versus stagnation, and ego integrity versus despair. In these stages, basically, Erikson was saying that during each stage, an individual experiences a crisis that leads them to lean either one way or the other. So an infant in the first stage of trust versus mistrust will have a crisis and will learn to either trust their caregiver or mistrust. Some strengths of this theory, I think, is that it's really open to interpretation involving the crises. It's not saying that it's just one specific crisis, like an infant goes through and suddenly, bam, they either trust or mistrust completely. I think it could be one big crisis, but I think it could also be a lot of little things that happen that kind of build up to the infant leaning one way or another. I think this also lends to a weakness, as it could be seen as vague and difficult to test, difficult to measure, difficult to assess. I mean, what qualifies as a crisis? That's one example. How play is supported in a theory. In the 3 different stages, first, trust versus mistrust. Basically, infants are just looking for predictable, consistent, and reliable care. And this can be done through creating bonds. And playing with an infant is a good way, very good way to create that bond. Autonomy versus shame and doubt. This is where a lot of play kind of comes into, really being important in this theory. Mobile infants and toddlers must be allowed to be as independent as possible, so doing things for themselves. They can try to dress themselves. Just let them do as much as they can before they ask for help. And also allowing them to explore their environment and encouraging environment. So free play is definitely a great way to let them be, do whatever they want to do in the classroom. They can, go play with art. They can go play with this and that. There's a lot of options. And initiative versus guilt. This is where children really show initiative, not only in play, so in like creating new activities and choosing to go do this, initiating, I'm going to go do this, but also initiating social relationships. So this is the part where they start more playing with others. Hey, let's go do this. Let's go do this activity, And in the classroom, I'm with infants and toddlers, so there are only just over 2. I've seen a lot of free play in the autonomy versus shame and doubt stage. They're allowed to be as independent as possible, like during mealtime. They eat by themselves. We don't feed it to them. They scrape their own dishes. They wash their own hands as much as they can. There are some things they can't reach, like the soap, so we might have to get the soap for them and show them how to rub their hands together. But for the most part, they're pretty independent in those areas. And they also, 90% of their day is free play. I mean, they're just allowed to explore their environment as much as they want, and that really allows that autonomy for their sense of self to build. And I'm starting to see some initiative in a couple of the older children in the classroom. There was a child that left about halfway through the semester, and she initiated most of the play in the classroom. The other 2, especially the one like next oldest to her, followed her everywhere. Did everything she was doing. I mean, it just modeled everything. And now that she's gone, he's kind of sort of taken on that role himself. I don't think he's fully accepted it yet, but I think he will, and I don't think it'll be very long before he does. Using this theory in my professional career, I definitely want to work in a wide variety of early childhood settings, but I definitely want to be a teacher. And using this theory, I would definitely use free play and letting the children do things for themselves as much as possible would definitely be something I would use in my classroom. And also possibly trying to uh, leave suggestions around the classroom. I wouldn't say prompts, but just something that encourages the kids to initiate their own play and activities and stuff like that. And yeah, that's my presentation. Thanks.